In the heart of medieval Europe, where the spires of cathedrals pierced the heavens and the streets echoed with the clatter of hooves on cobblestone, there lived a man named Father Alaric. The year was 1347, and the Black Death was a specter creeping across the land, its skeletal fingers claiming lives with a quiet, relentless hunger. The air was thick with the scent of incense and the weight of fear, a fear that clung to every whispered prayer and every flickering candle. Father Alaric, a scholar of the church, spent his days in the dim solitude of the monastery library, surrounded by ancient texts and the ghosts of parchment. His hands, stained with ink, traced the words of saints and sinners alike. Seeking wisdom in a world unraveling at the seams, beneath his calm demeanor, though, a storm brewed, a tempest of doubt, a clash between the rigid doctrines of faith and the quiet stirrings of reason. The people, desperate for answers as the plague tightened its grip, turned not only to God but to older, darker beliefs. Among these was a chilling notion that cats, those silent wanderers of the night, were more than mere animals. They were harbingers of evil, creatures capable of summoning demons with a flick of their tails or a glint in their amber eyes. Father Alaric had always found solace in their presence, the way they moved with a grace that seemed almost divine, their purrs a balm to his restless mind. Yet now, the whispers grew louder, insistent, threading through the village like a poison. Cats, they said, were the familiars of witches, the minions of Satan himself. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, painting the sky in hues of crimson and shadow, Father Alaric sat in his chamber, a single candle casting trembling light against the stone walls. In his hand was a parchment, its ink still wet with the church's latest decree. All cats, especially those cloaked in black, were to be hunted down and destroyed. His heart sank as he read the words, each one a dagger to his soul. He lifted his gaze to the window, where a lone black cat perched on the sill, its eyes glowing like twin embers in the gathering dusk. "What are you, little one?" he murmured, his voice a fragile thread in the silence. "A servant of darkness, or merely a mirror to our own terror?" The question lingered, unanswered, as the night closed in around him. The belief that cats could summon demons was no fleeting fancy. It was a thread woven deep into the tapestry of medieval life. Born from the shadows of folklore and stoked by the fires of superstition, in the flickering glow of the library, Father Alaric pored over brittle scrolls and dusty tomes, chasing the origins of this dread. He found tales that stretched across the continent, stories of cats that spoke in human tongues, their voices low and seductive, of felines that danced with witches beneath a swollen moon, their shadows twisting into unnatural shapes, of rituals where cats were offered up to the abyss, their blood a key to unlock the gates of hell. One account, etched in a monk's trembling hand, told of a village undone by a single catit's eyes, said to burn with an unholy light, its whispers driving men to madness before the flames consumed them all. These were not mere peasant tales, though. The church itself had cast its weight behind the fear. Cats, with their nocturnal prowls and silent steps, were relics of a pagan past, symbols of a time before the cross had claimed the land. To the clergy, they were a thread abridged to the profane, in a world where the sacred hung by a thread. Father Alaric uncovered the words of St. Augustine, whose writings warned of the devil's cunning, his ability to cloak himself in the forms of beasts. "The devil is a lion," Augustine had declared, "stalking the night, seeking whom he may devour." From there, it was a simple step to see cats, those velvet-footed hunters, as his agents, their mystery amassed for malevolence. Yet as Father Alaric traced these threads, doubt nodded. The logic felt frail, built on shadows rather than stone. He thought of the black cat that greeted him each night, its warmth a quiet defiance of the tales. Could such a creature truly harbor evil, or was it merely a scapegoat for humanity's own failings? The texts offered no comfort, only more questions, and the weight of them pressed against his chest like a vice. Outside, the wind howled, carrying with it the distant cries of a village lost to fear. And Father Alaric wondered if the true demons were the ones they conjured in their minds. The church's decree was a chain around Father Alaric's soul, binding him to a duty he could not reconcile with his heart. As a man of God, obedience was his vow. Yet the thought of condemning an innocent creature tore at him like thorns. Night after night, the conflict grew, a storm of guilt and defiance raging within the confines of his chamber. One evening, as he knelt in prayer, his lips moving silently over pleas for guidance, a soft meow broke the stillness. It was the black cat, its eyes wide and searching, standing at his door. He hesitated, his hand hovering over the latch, then let it in. The cat slipped inside, curling by the fire as if it belonged there, and Father Alaric felt a pang of shame. Surely, this was a betrayal of his faith. But as the days wore on, the cat became his shadow, a silent companion to his unraveling thoughts. He spoke to it in the quiet hours, his voice a confession to the stone walls. "Why do they hate you so?" he asked, running his fingers through its sleek fur. "What is it in your silence that they fear?" The cat offered no reply, only the steady rhythm of its breath, a counterpoint to the chaos in his mind. Yet the world outside would not let him forget. Whispers slithered through the monastery rumors that Father Alaric had fallen to the devil's wiles, but the cat was his master now. The abbot called him before the council, his face carved from stone. "Cast it out," he ordered, "or face judgment." Father Alaric bowed his head, the words a blade against his throat. He knew obedience was the path of salvation, but the cat's trusting gaze haunted him, a mirror to his own frailty. The village beyond the walls grew wilder, the plague's shadow fueling a frenzy of blame. Cats were dragged from homes, their cries swallowed by the crackle of flames, and Father Alaric felt each death as a wound. He stood at the crossroads of faith and compassion, and the choice loomed before him, dark and inevitable. The night was a shroud, the moon veiled by clouds as Father Alaric led the cat to the forest's edge. His hands shook as he set it down, the cold earth biting into his knees. "Go," he whispered, his voice breaking, "and may mercy find us both." The cat met his gaze, its eyes twin lanterns in the gloom, then turned and melted into the shadows. He lingered there, the silence a weight he could not shed, the ache of betrayal, a stone in his chest. He had obeyed, but the victory was hollow. The plague marched on, undeterred, its scythe cutting through the village with a ferocity that mocked their rituals. Cats perished by the hundreds, their bodies heaped in pyres that lit the night, yet the sickness only deepened. Father Alaric watched from the monastery's walls, the air thick with smoke and despair, and saw the truth laid bare. The evil was not in the cats, but in the fear that drove men to madness. Church had demanded sacrifice, but it was a sacrifice of reason, of humanity itself. Unable to bear the sight, he fled, abandoning his robes, his vows, his place among the faithful. Into the wilderness he went, the forest swallowing him whole, until he found the cat again. Perhaps it found him. Its eyes still burned with that quiet enigma, a question he could never answer. Together they vanished, leaving behind a world drowning in its own shadows. Their tale echoes through time, a murmur on the wind, a flicker at the edge of vision. It speaks of a man undone by faith, of a creature condemned by ignorance, and of a truth buried beneath the weight of superstition. So, listener, when next a black cat crosses your path, pause. Look into its eyes and ask, is it a bringer of doom, or merely a reflection of the demons we carry within? The answer, like Father Alaric's, may never come, but the question will linger, as eternal as the night itself.